When I was at college, I never heard of Samuel Palmer, and they don't really talk about Samuel Palmer, they don't teach him. Palmer's one of these artists that, even when I moved to Reigate like 20 years ago, I still didn't know who Samuel Palmer was. And it's only probably the last 10, 15 years that I became aware of him, and then it's really only fairly recently, the last few years, that I've come to appreciate him as. So my name is Adam, this is Adam's Gallery. We're based on Reigate High Street. We've been here about 4 years now. We opened, or didn't open, during the lockdown in 2020, so quite an interesting time for a retail space. I've been an artist all my life, and the opportunity came up to open a gallery on the high street, so I grabbed it, really. The last few years we've had some amazing shows, and at the moment I'd say this is probably one of our best shows. Samuel Palmer, William Blake. So I picked Samuel Palmer because he lived in Reigate. He lived in Reigate the last 20 years of his life, sort of 1860 to 1881. He lived just over in Meadvale, so not too far away. He's a kind of artist, so a lot of artists know who he is, but not a lot of people know who he is. So his etchings, his printmaking, he's very well known for his sort of pastoral vision. But when he was a young man, he met William Blake. Obviously, most people know who William Blake is. He met William Blake in London. He was about 18 or 19, Palmer. And it has a huge influence on Palmer and his work throughout the rest of his life. I mean, William Blake only lived a few years later, died about 3 years later. But Palmer and a group of artists, they became kind of disciples of William Blake. So the exhibition it's exactly 200 years since Palmer met Blake at Fountain Court on the Strand. Fountain Court's not there anymore. They knocked it down and built the Savoy Hotel. We have a large collection of Palmers, which is very unusual. And to bring Palmers to Reigate, where he lived, I think is really special. We've got some lovely William Blake engravings from 1793. And then we've also got artists like Sutherland, Paul Drury. So 100 years, in about the 1920s, Palmer was rediscovered as a printmaker. He's sort of been a bit forgotten about. So artists like Sutherland too, he's a very well-known artist, famously painted Winston Churchill's portrait. So Palmer was rediscovered by these artists. So they ended up creating etchings in that kind of style of, not the style of Palmer, but just the skill and the vision. So we have artwork from the 1920s onwards, and then I've got contemporary artists that have been inspired by William Blake, Samuel Palmer. I invited artists to create something for the exhibition. So we have, a huge collection, sort of 200 years worth of art, 1824 to 2024. I really like the Sutherland etchings. Huge fan of Sutherland's work. They're not like the work that everybody knows Sutherland for. So they were quite early on, when they were in the 20s. So Sutherland went more abstract. Paul Drury, who was another artist at the time, his work, we've got a lovely collection of Paul Drury etchings, donated by his son Jolyon Drury. Which has been, Jolyon's been very, very kind and supportive of the exhibition. So there's a lot of people involved in pulling the exhibition together, lots of galleries, private collections. A lot of artists that I've asked have been, very pleased to create something for the exhibition. We organised a few etching classes to go alongside the exhibition. So just introductory etching classes that I was running up at the studios. And they've been very well received and people have enjoyed those. So it's I've tried to create other events as well, just not the exhibition, for people to come and see the artworks, so that there are other things to get involved with. So I think that initial connection to Palmer, location-wise, and was probably one of the starting points for the exhibition. He's buried in St Mary's, very simple grave, simple tombstone. His father-in-law, John Linnell, was very famous. He was a contemporary of Constable, so his grave is very elaborate with angels and very grand. And Palmer's just round the corner, and it's just very simple. And then going into Palmer's life more, reading about Palmer, his experiences living in Reigate, his family, all these kind of things. Really interesting, I feel like sometimes like a few parallels with my kind of artistic life, although I'm not a patch on Samuel Palmer's artwork at all. I like the fact that this building is 500 years old, and I think 200 years ago it was a pub. So he may have been in here. I think he liked green tea, so he may not have come in for an ale, but he may have popped in, so there's all these kind of connections. So.
And there's a churchyard, something raised above the more unholy ground, where swains, unnoted and unpraised, in innocent sleep lay sound. Free from press of stony tomb, of gloomy vault, shall they from earth's kind womb joyous at the last trump rise, light of heart and win the skies, whilst many more in sculptured marble found shall wake with horrid shriek and sudden soar around. When I shall die, my bones let die, without a stone my grave upon. For quiet is this churchyard's nook, with clustering elm trees close in. For if, dear God, I'm written in thy book, what recketh it where else my feeble name is seen? For I thought base believe that thou for me hast better things prepared than village gardens be. By streams of life, of ever blooming tree, to walk and sing with antique saints and see bliss above all, dear Lord, thy face eternally. And that was written by Palmer himself, and those of you who know Palmer's paintings particularly will get a lot of the references in, like the Sleeping Shepherd, like the Magic Apple Tree, like the fields were so full of grain that they shall dance and sing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.